we're going to talk a little bit about what you can do to prepare for buying cloud PBX systems. So whether you want to call it UCaaS, hosted PBX, cloud PBX, it really doesn't matter. The key is you really need to evaluate how to buy it. And these steps that we take really will work for almost any system. So Jason put together a nice sheet that you can download, and we'll put the link in our comments later. But what I'd like to do is bring that up now and turn the tables over to Jason and say, hey, buddy, tell us a little bit about what we got going on here.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian. So yeah, we know for a lot of businesses out there, buying a phone system, especially if it's your first, there's a lot of things to consider. So primarily, we're just going to focus on, cloud phone systems today. So we wanted to put together just a quick checklist. So we gave you 5 things to look at that you want to consider when you're buying this. So the first one here is, would a hosted or premise phone system work best for my business? So for a hosted phone system, it's a virtual PBX with no downtime, and it's a very affordable installation. So for on-premise, servers located on your site, and the end user is responsible for upgrades, maintenance, and expansion. So if you were to go that route, at the end, you're responsible for all those things. But if you went the other way, that's something that kind of we take care of.
So let's expand on this one a little bit before we go on to number 2. John, kind of give us your thoughts about, as the guy that's often working with the clients and making recommendations, what drives potentially a hosted solution versus what drives a premise solution for a customer?
Well, there's a couple things, but I'll touch on one or two. When it comes to hosted, you want to you're going to be paying per seat, right? When you're buying a premise, you're buying the phone system outright, and you're only paying for the phone lines that are in the phone system. So if you have like a large building and you have maybe like half of the phones are, unused, you probably don't want to go with a hosted system. You probably want to buy out a premise. But if you have a company that everyone's on the phones, constantly, a hosted system might be a great opportunity for you. And you get all the added complexity that a premise system doesn't just come out of the box with a hosted system. And like Jason was saying, it's virtual. So meaning it's in a cloud, and it could be in multiple data centers, and that uptime is across multiple data centers, and you're able to, most of the carriers are providing like a 99 5 nines uptime, right? 9.999% uptime. Where a premise system, you're locked down to your location. Hey, if you lose power, you lose internet, you could lose your phone service. You could be dead in the water.
So John, if I'm hearing you correctly, what you're really saying is general business will usually probably fit in the cloud bucket these days and really benefit from the flexibility and uptime. But, the places that might want to think about premise are places like school systems, where there's a lot of phones in the classroom, but certainly not phones that are being utilized heavily. Manufacturing, where you might have a lot of emergency rooms, or phones on the floor, but they're not being utilized for a lot of communication. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, that, and even in like hospitality. But actually, since you brought up schools too, another thing about a premise system is, local backup lines. Say if you still have power and you're using internet lines, you can have many different lines come into the building for backup purposes. But that being said, some host providers can also provide an on-site gateway for those backup solutions. So it's a matter of knowing what you're looking for, knowing what you need in any kind of event.
All right. So Jason, why don't you take us on to number 2 and tell us a little bit about that?
Perfect. So the next thing we want to focus on is your bandwidth, right? And just because your internet is fine today, that doesn't mean that things could change, such as like adding voice, right? So if you've experienced slow internet in the past, it might be time for an upgrade for your internet services, so with the voice traffic can be small per call, and groups of them can impact other business functions. So it's really important to review your bandwidth performance to make sure that you basically can handle this stuff. So that's something you want to consider beforehand. So John, is that something that we typically help customers with beforehand?
Absolutely. I mean, the whole part of, moving to the cloud is, taking a look at what you're using today for bandwidth and what kind of applications you're using today, even before you're looking at the cloud phone system. If you're using a lot of cloud systems today, maybe file sharing, or maybe you're doing a lot of you're sending out files back and forth, or you're outside of your network that could, bog down your internet connection, which could cause voice quality issues. But what we're really looking for is a decent internet connection with low latency and enough bandwidth to support your phone calls, and every phone call pretty much takes about 80 kilobytes of bandwidth. So you kind of have to do the math on how many phone calls you might be going on at one time. And we can, pretty much figure out if that internet connection is good or not. And plus we also have testing tools we can run in your network to make sure that bandwidth would suffice for a cloud phone system.
Yeah, I was going to say, John, I know we've got tools that can allow us to do kind of a network assessment and really see what the bandwidth requirements are. And for those that don't know this on the bandwidth side, one thing to keep in mind is it's not like a straw where you can say, as long as I get 100% of the straw working, I'll be okay. It's actually recommended that you try to keep your bandwidth only at about 35% of its overall utilization level. So 100, of that amount of bandwidth you got. So that way, if you do have spikes or greater volume, there's room to expand up. So those are the kind of things that we can help out with as you're making some of your decisions and provide you with some reporting. So take us on to number 3, Jay.
Perfect. So the next one is probably a big focus for a lot of people, right? Is finances. So, finance can dictate which kind of system would be right for you. And a lot of companies right now are moving to the OpEx model, where basically they don't have to lay out any capital for a new phone system. That's been very popular. And, cloud fits the bill with monthly recurring structure. That's something that's really popular. And additionally, many cloud providers include the hardware at no additional cost. So I know that's something that's been really attractive to a lot of our customers. Yeah?
Absolutely. I mean, definitely the zero cost up front is a big winner for moving to the cloud. But you have to weigh those costs ongoing as well. I mean, if you're going to get a phone system, you're going to know what your monthly cost is from now and for the next 5 years, really. When it comes to a premise system, you might know what the cost is up front for the phone system and what you'd be paying for your phone lines. But what might happen if you get a surge and your system maybe a component might crash and you're down, you have to pay for a technician to come on site, replace that, right? Those are costs you can't really plan for. With a cloud system, you can plan.
The other thing with a cloud system is just that, that ease of using it like a utility and the scalability of it too, right? Employees go up, you can increase your count. You go through a downsizing event, you can decrease your count. So you're really not buying unused capacity up front and trying to mirror what the future might bring you, right? So another big part of that. So then let's take it from there and hit number 4, Jason. What do we got going on here?
All right. So, you want to be sure that you're checking your contracts. So you want to take a look at your contracts and make sure that you won't be breaking any long-term commitments or you'll be facing some penalty charges before moving to the cloud. So that's something that you definitely want to consider, because I know a lot of people are, paying fees for kind of breaking this, and there might be something that's not really common knowledge. Like, John, what's the knowledge out there? Is that something that people typically have to think about, or is that something that we kind of always bring up front to them?
Well, there's a lot of ways to look at this. Yeah, you want to make sure that you're always constantly checking your contracts, because you want to make sure when you sign up, they're not just going to renew you at the end of that 3-year contract for another 3 years where you're having to sign. Those clauses are in there, but it depends on what you're also paying today. If you're if there's only a year left in your contract and you're paying an enormous amount, maybe buying it out and moving to a cloud system to save money, it might the ROI might make sense. It really there's many different ways to look at it, and there's it's making sure what you're paying for today and keep up with those contracts.
Yeah, and some of the providers will even work with you. So if you stay in provider, if you're working with somebody that's got a good UCaaS product, sometimes you can make that segue to the new product, since they know they're going to retain the revenue and allow you to move some of those penalties and just incorporate them into the new contract.
Absolutely, and even save money.
Yeah. So the final one is number 5 here, Jason. Tell us a little bit about what's going on here.
Yeah, so with Ally Communications, consider this upgrade is on us, right? So one of the best things about the cloud-based system is that you don't have to pay for the support or maintenance or the costly hardware upgrades. So that's something that's super attractive in that sense.
And it's not just the upgrades, Jason, too. I mean, with cloud-based systems, say if a new feature comes out, we add it to your stack and it's included. It comes with the every seat. So you don't have to worry about, I want this feature. So you don't have to pay for an extra license. It's usually included with these upgrades and feature updates.
Yeah, things really operate almost like a true SaaS model now when it comes to hosted phones. So, like software as a service, the key here is you now make one final migration into that platform. And then once you're in that platform, the upgrades just kind of come with the subscription. You don't have to plan them out. You don't have to budget for them. They're just part of the deal. And this is key, for those of us that have a little gray hair like I do, from 2000 to 2010, I could tell you we probably made most of our money in the integration world, upgrading Exchange servers